Well, while we're waiting for Kurt to come back, I'm just going to fill some time here. We've been talking a lot about great technology and AI advancements, and I think it's just a good time to take a moment to think about how technology is really moving fast right now. I mean, every single week, we're seeing innovations that were unimaginable just a few years ago. AI, quantum computing, autonomous systems, they're all becoming a part of everyday life. And what's wild is that as fast as things are moving, we're still on scratching the surface of what's possible. Kurt, I was just filling some time. I was talking about
Oh,
just
cool.
made a little statement about how fast, like taking a moment to think about how fast we're moving right now, and
Yeah.
encouraging people to imagine where we'll be in just a few years. You know, we're talking about the future where machines can handle complex tasks, not just repetitive work, but to work like alongside us. And I think enhancing our productivity and creativity. This is what keeps me excited about these discussions. So just knowing we're all here witnessing these massive shifts together. Who knows? Maybe next week we'll have a new breakthrough. And keep unpacking, discussing more of that. So, and again, in other words, I was just
Right.
dead air time. You got some words there you can go back on. But yeah, welcome back.
Well, let me welcome listeners back to this is the bonus episode this week of the Curt and John Talk Tech and AI podcast because we capture this on X space. This is an X space or spaces or whatever the vernacular that's correct there. I don't think Chicago Manual Style is critiquing it yet, so we can call it whatever we want. Sometimes, because it's been about a week and a half since we've talked, and in the world of AI and business technology, a week and a half is a long time, right, John?
I would say if I went with the numbers, it's like 2.5 months. Like two and a
Yeah,
half months.
exactly. Yeah,
If you did it
yeah,
20 years ago. Yeah,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that it's crazy. A week and a half, how much happens.
It's two and a half PC magazines from 1997. Like, yeah, there you
PC
go.
Mag. Oh man.
PC.
For
Hey,
sure.
don't make fun of my old subscriptions now.
I'm sure I have some in storage. I
I'm
mean,
geezing. Yeah,
magazine subscriptions. Man, where did they go? Actually, you know what's funny? I have magazine subscriptions, and it's only because
still
uh
today
still
you,
today,
you
yes,
get
for sure.
ink on dead trees delivered to your
I I
stylish home.
do. And it's interesting
Okay.
when you have a magazine subscription because you have the digital version as well, but I don't know, there's just something about thumbing through a magazine that's still very soothing to me. That might tell you my age. That and a newspaper, but so I still invest in the very every so dying print media that is called the newspaper.
Well, the local hair salon, the local dentist office, they love you, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Because they are challenged to keep people waiting and entertained for sure.
Yeah. I think there's a scarcity of those actually because it seems like they just assume that everybody's on their phone when you go to a medical office like that because I don't see them as much as I used to.
I agree. I think most people are scrolling casserole recipes on Facebook when they're
Yeah.
sitting in the dentist's office. Yeah, I think the first thing we do is we pull that phone out of our back pocket, just start doom scrolling or whatever they're calling it these days. Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you still have magazines, and it's funny in the main podcast that we're bonusing here.
Mhm.
Uh, you had talked about how some like old we were talking about technology and how it evolves, and you were like some old technology still exists, and obviously print is go back to the Gutenberg, right? Like the Gutenberg Bible, and like this is print is an old technology, but recently I wrote about AM radio
Oh,
because
wow. Yes.
because the US Congress, there's a bill in Congress right now. There's a lot of bills in Congress, so don't freak out, people. Jeez. I just, but there's a bill in Congress that would require automakers, any automaker selling a car in the United States, whether they were based in the US or not, would have to include AM radio. And the reason for this is that they want it as an emergency alert system, like a
Okay.
backup. if
Yeah.
if if the aliens come and the cell towers all go down and your internet access is kaput, they just wanted a backup. So I don't want to criticize them too heavily here, but so I did a little research. Here the my friendly Grok AI helped me out, right?
Mhm.
And I would have just guessed off the top of my head that AM radio was like 80 or 90 years old. Turns out it's like 110 years old, John. Like
Wow.
like AM radio is old AF, as my kids would say, and so, but it's not going anywhere,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to be able to subscribe to most major magazines for the next 40 years, or is it like I don't see the old tech going away, and I like that, in fact, because, and I hinted at this in the main portion of this podcast, but options are good, right?
Yes.
Like you said, you like flipping the pages of a physical magazine. I would prefer to do it on an iPad, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But it, what matters is the content, and the consumer has a preference, so being having the capability to cater to those preferences is a good thing, and I think a sign of a good society, right? So I'm glad that you can get the Ink on Dead Trees and I can get the version for my iPad, and someone else can listen to it as a podcast because they don't even want to read.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess like for my reasons outside of, for me it's like, all right, I know what goes into a magazine. I know what goes into the article selections, where they are in the progression of the
Mm.
magazine, the advertising selections. Like it's a lot more curated, and of course because you can't edit it, right? Like it's done once they send it out. There's no
Yeah,
we
yeah,
we
yeah.
revised it. There's some error. No, it's out. And so I like that. I like that part of it, and that wouldn't change right across the digital mediums. At the end of the day, if I'm looking at the digital version of the magazine, it's just a digital version of the magazine. It's the same thing. I can just scroll through it on an iPad. So
Exactly,
you're
it's
right. Like,
identical,
yeah.
really.
So that for those reasons, there's no real big change. But the one that's really important for me, and it goes back to that what we talked about in the main episode, was the fire hose or the Niagara Falls. It's because like when I'm in that magazine, nothing else can distract me. There's no notifications, there's no bells, there's no
That's a good
emails,
point. That's a
there's
good
nothing
point.
coming through that's taking me away from that article, and it's a good step away, and I
That's a
can take.
good point.
So that's
Nothing
why.
like reading a great article in Variety, and then you get some notification that Costco is going to save you $2 on
Yeah,
bacon.
yeah.
Like it
Or
just kind of ruins the moment in a way, right?
it definitely is feeding into that, which I think everybody now has, which is ADD scenario. It's just like now it's like
We all
I,
have ADD now. We all need lithium. Yes.
definitely
I'm
a higher.
selling.
It's definitely a word that's more tossed around casually now than it was when, let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Like my brother, my youngest brother, he was actually diagnosed when we were kids of ADD, and that I feel like that had different weight because I watched him struggle with it like all his life versus like now where people are like I have adult ADD, and I'm like,
People brag about it today.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're like my ADD's on the fritz again today. And sorry, I'll send. It's like no, that's all right. I mean, I guess that's now normal nomenclature for how we describe how you're unorganized and not showing up, but it's fine. you know?
Well, have you ever had a friend or colleague who, like, during their vulnerable moments, maybe after a couple beers at the Christmas party or whatever,
Yeah.
th- and they would just kind of start getting into this "I have more ailments than you do"
Mm-hmm.
game,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be like, yeah, I have this, I have that, I have that, and every time I get in that situation, I just cringe, because I'm like. Like, yeah, we should not be boasting about.
Yeah, it's one thing if I don't know the things that hold me back, but if they're like, if I'm like celebrating them and wearing them as merit badges on the shoulder.
Merit badges, very well said.
Yeah,
Yes,
like I'm like, wait a second,
exactly.
we're all,
Like,
nope, nope, nope.
yeah, yeah. Just discovery is critical and important and leads to growth and improvement. And yes, discover and research. But yeah, as soon as this becomes a game, and my polo score is higher than your polo score. Okay, all right.
Yeah, but yeah, I like the idea of so old tech, like I said with the planner, or just these things that I notice people are doing. Like for example, I had. Let me give you a good example. Actually, this last year, I made one goal. I said I'm going to get financially smart, and that doesn't mean like I've done dabbled in stocks. I understand investing. I understand banking and stuff like that. But it was really like, let me get financially smart with like how I spend my money in my own home.
Oh,
And
from
it
an
was like,
outgoing perspective, from
yeah,
a monthly budget perspective.
monthly
Yeah.
budget perspective, like
Yeah.
really going back to, and
Yep.
it's so weird that the old tech, and I wouldn't say that I'm like writing in a hand ledger, but I built a spreadsheet, with some formulas, and I had to adjust it over time, right? It wasn't really perfect the first couple months because it was like, oh, well, I didn't account for this, I didn't account for that, and to the fact where I'm actually keeping my receipts right now, and I come home and I have this routine of like actually entering my receipts into
Well, you're
the.
paying attention,
Oh
right?
my,
You're just
what
you went
clarity!
from not paying attention to paying attention, regardless of how you do it.
Yeah,
Save your receipts, take a picture. There's those apps that'll you can just take a picture of the receipt and it'll
yeah,
digitize it,
yeah.
and that probably just that word digitize ages me. It's like
Well,
he
yeah.
he saw Back to the Future in the theater. I know
Digitized.
he did. I know he did.
Superimposed. No,
I'm sorry.
but not even the apps. Like I've used them. I used Mint before, and now it's not Mint anymore because QuickBooks swallowed up. Or,
Oh, QuickBooks Bottom. Yeah, there you
yeah,
go.
or Rocket Money and all that. And I can tell you,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm not going to give away anything right now if they're listening. I'd love if they're listening, but I would shake up your R&D room because there's things that I know now that I've learned that I'm like is completely missing in those algorithms. It's just missing. There's
Right,
like it
right.
makes no sense. It's almost as if it's promote me to spend more money still, which is terrible for
What?
consumerism. I know,
What?
right? I know.
What? To get you to click through
Yeah,
and
yeah.
go into a call to action and give
Listen,
them
I think that
$12 a month? Come on. Come on.
inflation is an inflated idea. I think that yes, that things cost more. Don't get me wrong. Um, but when I really looked at my finances, man, if you got really gritty with the truth of how much we overspend, and I'm not saying don't spend your money and enjoy your life. I just think if you're not watching it, you become a victim later of like
Be
what's not
aware.
working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be aware.
Yeah, and so like I'm saying, manual tech, even at a spreadsheet level, it's not like I said, it's not
Absolutely.
standard, but it's conditioned me to go like, wow, and it's also a place of solitude because I feel good knowing that I have my eyes on this, that I'm aware of what's happening, like that, like it's producing more than what it was when I wasn't, which is like I didn't know what was going on. I don't know where my money
Right.
was going. And it's interesting. So I'd say, yeah, the old tech, man, some of that stuff is really still very much alive and could be better, honestly, still than what it is right now. Because I think the more you remove yourself from things, sometimes it becomes
Well,
a danger zone.
and in the main episode we talked about objectivity, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that whole removal of thyself is, I think, part of objectivity, right? It's part of there was an old. I used to hang out with too many hippies, quite honestly, but
No such thing.
one of them during the holidays gifted me a book about Buddhism,
Uh,
right?
mm,
And I will admit I never read the entire book. I didn't climb to the top of the mountain, but I there was this one section that was like, to really understand something, especially something that's controversial and very polarizing, is to focus on and totally understand the haters,
mm,
and then to also, in almost like a separate project, focus on and understand the fanboys,
mm-hmm.
which, and I would categorize them as polarized zealots. Okay.
Yeah.
And that, but here's the magic. This particular book about Buddhism said, take both of those and crash them into each other. And there you go. There's your objectivity. There's your reality. And I was like, that's not easy. That what they just said, what I just described, like that is not easily done.
No, not at all. No, that's. Oh well, and well, not without intention. I would say you got to really be focused on
I
what you want
like
to do here.
that. Yeah, I like that you often bring it back to intention, because I think it's often overlooked, but it's very important, right? Because, if you don't realize that, after you murder your husband and the insurance guy comes to your house and he doesn't want to pay you, and so he's looking for evidence to not pay you. That's called intention,
Hmm.
right? Like you have
Hmm.
to, yeah, it's a very powerful tool in life. I think it kind of separates the winners from the losers, understanding intentionality. But
Well, it tells me that you did it with purpose. That you did it like to create a result, and yeah, of course they're going to look for that because, well, the insurance company reference anyway. They don't want to pay you, and that's their intention.
sorry, I was just watching Bad Sisters on Apple TV. And yeah, they just kept like promoting it. Season 2's coming out soon, and I was like, all right, what's this all about?
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, that was inspired by Bad Sisters on Apple TV. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I have no idea what. I don't. I haven't watched a lot of Apple TV, and the only time I actually had a subscription was because I wanted to crush through Ted Lasso. That was an amazing show.
Ted Lasso's amazing, and
Yeah, Jason Sudeikis is genius. He's
yeah, I like that. Again, options are good for
yeah,
consumers, right?
yeah.
And so I like the fact that Apple TV is taking kind of a different approach from Netflix. And I love Netflix. I have a subscription.
Hmm.
So I'm
Hmm.
not a Netflix hater. I'm not taking sides here. But I like that Apple's like, we're a smaller collection, kind of like in the old days of HBO, right? We're a smaller
Yes.
collection, but we're higher quality. Like,
Very, very much. Like
yeah.
I think you got to have a good noodle up there to watch Apple TV programming sometime, and I like that. It's challenging for me because I realize sometimes you watch. I really try not to watch a lot of stuff, right? And I'm even the guy that if I really wanted to watch a movie, I will want to grab myself through the painful process of I have these two big boxes that are full of alphabetized DVDs and Blu-rays. I do. I still
Wow.
have hard media because I'm like that's a
You're
process.
officially more OCD than me. Yeah. You get the prize. Yeah, very
But
good.
it's a process, and at least I know I take that process because I'm intentional about that intention again. That I want to watch a movie, anyways. And so because I know that I've definitely done the doom scrolling, like just looking
Right.
through to find that there's so many options. There's
Right.
there's where AI needs to come in. By the way, like it needs to get better about like no, you need to watch this today and just let it and play it for me. I would love that feature. Play me what you think I should watch today, and hopefully it knows me enough to where that
Based on everything I've watched over the
based
last
on
10 years,
exactly and
because
yeah,
that's
and wherever else I
intelligence.
can answer some questions to help you even clarify it, totally cool. I want that feature.
Right.
I don't even want to like a randomizer. I remember for a while they had that one weird where it's like roll the dice. I don't know if you have Netflix that much, and that was kind of cool except for sometimes it was way off. But that again,
No, I think I
AI.
remember what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it was like,
it was
yeah,
like
like
it was
here's
like
the
don't know what to
roulette.
watch. Let's figure it out. It was like it was kind of cool. And I think they took it away. I'm not following up on every bit of
It was the
Netflix
Asian
releases.
porn. Yeah, the Asian porn ruined it for everybody. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, I like Apple's programming actually because I'm like it's kind of like foreign movies. I have to actually sit there and watch it. I can't be on my phone. I can't be trying to work and have it on in the background. I'd have to watch it in order to actually absorb that media. And so I realize I'm like Apple TV is like it's when it's honestly it would be
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
staycation. Like I have like 3 days where I can actually watch some good programming and have like nothing else on my plate. I
Yeah.
would then sign up for
Yeah.
a
Good
month
point.
subscription, because it's got some really good. I the fact that Ted Lasso was on there, and I was like, and I had not. I think I jumped in like season 3, so I had to go back and watch and binge, and I loved it, and I was like, this is amazing programming, and I've seen some of their other movies, and I'm just like, yeah, you're right. It's so different. It's eclectic. It's elevated. I'll be honest. I'll give him kudos.
I agree. It's artsy.
Yeah,
It's kind of like the museum of streaming video,
yeah,
right? Like it's
yeah.
classy and distinguished, and yeah, my uh, favorite recently is Disclaimer,
Hmm.
which according to I forget it was The Verge or Engadget or one of those sources I follow on Twitter that said that Disclaimer on Apple TV is currently the most popular show on all of streaming.
Wow.
Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, you name it. That disclaimer is the most, and I'm because the streaming universe is huge right now, as we've
Yep.
been saying. It's really huge. So to get into the top 10, I'm impressed. To get to number one or number three, like, whoa, like you got some magic there, right? So yeah, Apple TV definitely has good. They also have Charlie Brown. I wanna tell listeners, if Charlie Brown was an important part of your childhood, and you're gonna have a nervous breakdown because you don't get to see it this year, and I've been in that position before. Anyway, Apple TV will give you every Charlie Brown special. They have a new Charlie Brown series. I haven't even seen it because I'm afraid, right, that it might spoil some of
Yeah.
my childhood perceptions. That's a
Yeah.
that's a
I don't
funny
like I don't like
mechanism.
the artwork of the newer stuff. And it just has that unfortunate feel. But I can't believe you mentioned that, because actually for a while the only reason I would actually have a subscription for Apple TV in the months of November and December were for the Charlie Brown
Good for
special.
you. No,
Because
that's smart, and I think Apple was brilliant to form that alliance. Like
yeah,
they tapped into, like they wanted to be sucking on the artery of American culture. Well,
they got it.
Charlie Brown is right there. Yeah, that Halloween special is something that I've seen every year for every year of my life.
Yep.
Well, like when I was like 4 or 5 years old, my grandmother plunked me. She was the only person in the neighborhood who had a color TV. And I got to watch Charlie Brown, which I had seen many times in black and white, in color. And it was magical, right? Like I'm 5 years old. It's Charlie Brown in color. How does life get any better?
Like, good stuff. Good streaming channel. Very cool that you mentioned that.
Although I think I'm going to have to resubscribe to Hulu. I used to subscribe to Hulu, and like I got caught up on everything, and just I don't know, it seemed boring, and so I just I'm very frugal with my money, so I unsubscribed. But I'm missing Bob's Burgers.
Bob's
Like serious,
Burgers,
yeah, Bob's Burgers. My kids introduced me to
the
it.
new Futuramas. There's some really cool adult animation on Hulu, I'd say, and Max actually. Surprisingly enough, and I like Max because it has all the DC animation, which I'm a comic fan, and I'm not big on DC comics, but I am big on like Batman and stuff, and so they got some cool stuff there, and they have and again, because I'm a nerd, Penguin. That has been an amazing show.
Oh, so good, so good. I've
Yeah.
watched every
So
episode. What are they through? Episode 5 now, I think.
yeah, yeah, and I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
that the girl that's playing Sophia Falcone. I'm at a loss for her name right now. She's They just said that they're actually going to do a Batman 2 with her, which may actually
Oh,
make me want
nice.
to watch it, because I think the first one I begrudgingly got through a lot, and unfortunately.
Yeah, that is an excellent series, and Colin Farrell. And
Transform.
what's
Wow.
Yeah, he's amazing. Like he needs to go down in history as like the Marlon Brando of our age, of our generation,
For
right?
sure.
Because he just pulls it off. And I had just completed watching season 1 of Sugar, which
Hmm.
coincidentally is on Apple TV,
Mm.
and I just loved it. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought every minute was well spent. And like a week before I started watching Penguin, they announced that Sugar season 2 was coming out. So now I'm even bigger Colin Farrell fan, right? I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. And then I see this Penguin, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm not. It makes me wonder how much is CGI and how much is actually like physical prosthetics that they've placed on his body. Um, but in a way, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, Hollywood is about suspending disbelief, and I think that's where Farrell gets is very successful in this role, because he suspends disbelief. You believe that he's Tony Soprano's cousin, and
Yeah.
he's gonna mess you up. Don't piss him off, because he's gonna mess you up.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's interesting. I think the gem out of you mentioning Hulu was that you binge watched everything, or you watched everything. Oh, her name was Kristen Milioti, by the way. But that you watched everything, and then
She's
you were
great,
like,
but she's great. She's got those large Japanese cartoon eyes. Like
gosh,
like
yeah,
like she has unusually beautiful large eyes. Yeah.
no, yeah, I've enjoyed her in everything she's in, actually. Black Mirror and Wolf of Wall Street and Palm Springs. But anyways, um, it's funny that you said about Hulu and you like binge watch everything, and then it kind of gets boring. And then have you found that you do that like often with all of them? That I've done it. The moment you said it, I was like, oh my god, I've done that. I've done that where I've just like I would have unsubscribed to Hulu probably 5 times over if it wasn't automatically given to me. I think on my I want to say Spotify. I think Spotify. I have that
Right.
membership.
One of
I'm
those bundle
grandfathered in.
things.
I can't
Yeah.
even change
Yeah.
my Spotify because if I do, I don't have that option anymore, so I don't, and so
That's
my
funny.
family suffers that I don't upgrade to the family plan because I'll lose Hulu.
Right.
but but yeah, that's how I get it. So I just have never changed it. It's the same thing for Max. It's like part of my AT&T bill, so I just don't change it. But it's like
Right.
but other things like Netflix, I remember I think it was last year I was like I'm done, and I actually took a considerable amount of time off. To then I was annoyed because when I came back, it's now what 22.99 or 20. It's
It's
obnoxious.
yeah, it's getting up there, and they
I
say
felt
they're
it.
gonna, the buzz. I'm sure you've seen it, John, in the tech press, but the buzz is that here in a few months they're going to raise it again because basically subscriber growth has stalled.
Mm,
And that doesn't mean that they aren't leading the pack. It doesn't mean that they don't have a gazillion subscribers. It just, Wall Street is harsh, right? Like shareholders
yeah,
are harsh. It's
yeah,
a harsh reality. And yeah, so suddenly, hey, you were growing at 24%, you know, year to date, and now you're at 4%. Like, well, yeah, but it's still a plus, right? It's still
yeah,
above the
yeah,
line.
yeah.
And so anyway, so their growth is slowing, and investors are clamoring and influencing, and so it appears, to your point, that the Netflix fees are just going to continue to go up.
It begs me to ask the question: business and tech. I mean, it's always so moving forward. But when you have a product or you have a service that I mean, if you think about it, has ceiling. It has a ceiling. Like if Netflix were to be in every home in the world, right? Eventually, then what? That'd be like $1 billion question. Then what? What are you gonna do? You gonna keep raising the price? You're gonna, like to make that percentage grow?
Well, yeah, it's so complicated, right? Because like, well, if you take the consumer perspective, competition is good. That's why I embrace capitalism, because I love competition, and I think competition results in lower prices and higher quality in products and services. Now, somebody might call me daft, and okay, that's cool, but that's the reason I like. So the whole concept of everybody having Netflix, well, it kind of begs the question, like, if you take 1952 in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
how many people were driving Chevys? How many people were driving Fords?
Mm-hmm.
How many people were driving Toyotas or BMWs? Right? Like so it really kind of makes you freak out in a way. This is back to what we talked about in the main episode, and it's the pace of technology, right? It's how
Yeah.
quickly this stuff advances.
Mm-hmm.
And our parents all give us, a variety of pros and cons, and we're thankful and we're angry and blah blah. But I am really thankful that one of the things my father shared with me when I was like 8 years old, and we were out on the hammock in the backyard looking up at the stars, and he bought me a telescope, and so I'm looking at the moon like it's in Time magazine, right? Like it's all crazy. And he said, son, technology is exponential in its growth forward. So what happened during the last 50 years is going to happen in the next 20 years, and then during what happened during that 20 years is going to happen in the next 8 years. And roughly speaking, he was just trying to explain to an 8-year old that this goes faster and faster as it progresses. And
Yeah.
I thought to myself, at what point do humans get left behind?
Mm-hmm.
Right? At what point do we just lose our minds and we're not hardwired to be able to accept and embrace and utilize the pace? right? And I think I don't want to sound dramatic, but I think we're kind of starting to get into that zone where there's a portion of society, regardless of whether it's 3% or 80%, I don't know, but like there's a portion of society that is technophobic, and they're either freaking out or they just don't care. But either way, they're kind of sticking their head in the sand, and they're not, utilizing this technology, and they're basically modern Luddites, right? They're people saying, "Nah, we're not going to go that route."
Yep.
And I want to be sensitive to those people and those impulses, and remember that hammock talk with my dad when I was 8 years old, and that the pace of technology is exponential. And watch out, peeps. I mean, nobody said it was fair. But I had a friend at dinner last week, and they were just like, "So this whole AI thing, so we're just all supposed to get new jobs and blah." It was obviously disturbing him. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it was disturbing him, and and I was like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got a continuous hashtag continuous learning, peeps. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't say this is a nice way to go. I didn't choose this path. This is just kind of the way it's gone.
There's, of course, there's responses to this, but it's marginal. It's marginal. It's very slim when you're at that level of what you offer, I guess, so of course there's, we continue to innovate it. Of course there's what I would hate, because there's these like fundamental things when you're in product and service. I product development and product marketing I've been in for a long time, and so there's these core kind of places you go to when you realize that market saturation's been reached, and it's like, what else do we do? um
Right,
the one I
right.
wouldn't want is increasing usage, frequency, or consumption, because that would be just more of what, I think that sometimes there's a lot of good things that can be said about how hooked we are. The idea that Netflix and chill, I think one time referenced something, reference something one that like one might have done as an excuse to go back to your place. But now it's like it's a thing. Like it's not even like that euphemism anymore. It's really just you just do it on Friday night and there's no other stuff going on. And it's just like, okay, that became a common kind of slogan that they didn't really introduce, and so if you look at that, you're like, okay, well, um there's going to be some inventive ways that it can't be always driving up the cost, like, like for example, my thing, which still has never really been solved unless I really only subscribe to that thing itself, which is like I really only watch a core amount of media that if they were just in one bundle it'd be great. I could see the value in that, but it's because, like, for example, I watch Netflix. I don't watch 70% of the crap, oh crap, 70% of the stuff that's on there because it just doesn't appeal to me. It's not interesting, or
Right.
it's not my field of entertainment. So, it's like, okay, I got to go somewhere else for that. I got to go somewhere else for that. Like, I like sports. I like to watch sports. So I got to go figure that out. Or luckily I'm in Vegas, so I can just pop over to a sports book if I really wanted to watch everything at once. But, so there's just different things I think that they can do to innovate. But I laughed, and not to laugh at your friend at lunch saying that. I laughed because it's actually like a thing. But it was a thing, I think, in the like the 70s. I think it was a thing in the 50s. I think that at every brink of technological advancement, being as archaic as it was of just introducing machines to now machines with minds,
Right.
uh, it startles people. It rattles their cage.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it should, right?
It
Like
does.
like like it's
100%.
good, but it depends on how you react, right? Yes, getting your cage rattled is one thing. Responding with fear and loathing and ignorance, well, that's a sad thing. But to your point, that's been going on for centuries or millennia, right?
Yeah.
That's been going on forever. uh, a comet went across the sky, and they thought it was the gods punishing them, or this is why we have crop failure. Like, we're always kind of misinterpreting what's going on around us. Now that misinterpretation is ironically seeming to be the result of too much information and too much fringe information. Like, and who am I to say what's misinformation, right? One person's misinformation is someone else's gospel. I
Yeah.
mean, it really is kind of the way it goes, and I know that doesn't satisfy any of us on either side, but that's kind of how it goes. But it comes back to, like, personally, and just to kind of take this back to AI for a second, I like using AI to filter through that Niagara Falls of information that we talked about in the main episode, and at least feel like I'm becoming more objective, right? At least
Yeah.
feel like I've gotten a little that, and that's why I mentioned the Brookings Institution and Sequoia Capital reports in the main episode, was because those made me feel more grounded and more objective and less like I was being influenced by fringers.
100%. I can't even add to that. Well said, for sure. Almost now every day, some new piece of AI news and tech news
Oh yeah.
that's going to change the way that I do things every day. And I'm looking forward to it. And I hope, what I hope for people is that they get to that nearly that same place where they get to a place where it's like, understanding that it's redefining industries. It's helping everything from, the healthcare world to the finance world to places that I guess they're really not thinking about because it doesn't affect them directly until it
Oh,
does.
Joe's Plumbing from across the town, right? If they're
Yeah.
not, if they don't have a website, blog, and the only way they're diving in is just using something like Adobe Firefly or Dolly or Ideogram to make images for their blog posts, then they're not really seeing the opportunity here.
Yeah, for sure. And there's vast opportunity, and then I think any of the naysayers, you kind of just have to shut off that noise. I know they're out there. It doesn't help, and but it's like anything else. If they don't like the person that's in charge running the country, then they're just gonna say something about it. If they don't like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
special at Pizza Hut this week, they're gonna say something about it. It is what it is.
It's yeah, it is, highly politicized, and that's unfortunate. On the plus side, it's nice that people like you and I, we're middle class Americans, we are knowledge workers, we are IT professionals, and this new thing comes our way, back to the exponential growth of technology, and this thing is heavily hyped.
Hmm.
Right? This can change your life. This can change your career. This can make you money. This can keep you employable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you take a look at it and say, is it really, all that good? And all I can say is there's a ton of hype. And we've discussed that plenty on this podcast in our short time. But like, I'm using it on the daily. I don't know about you, John. It sounds like you're using it on the daily.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't tap into it if it was BS. If it wasn't helping me, I'd say screw this, right? I'm out of here. But so far, it hasn't let me down, and it's letting me do a lot of things. Uh, Sometimes it's things I couldn't do. Sometimes it's things I can do, but it does it in 45 seconds, whereas it would have taken me 2 or 3 hours.
And
Yeah,
that's what it is.
you know,
Yeah. That
yeah,
fractional time is important. The time is
ha-
all we got.
exactly.
And
Even
why?
even Larry Ellison and Bill Gates only have 24/7, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
why else do they buy yachts? Because there's only so much time to get on a jet ski with a hot supermodel. So actually, it was Richard Branson, but
It was.
you get the idea. Yeah, you get the idea. I'm,
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, you know what I've gotten back? I've gotten back a regular sleeping schedule with AI. I've gotten to a place where all those things that I was burning the candle at both ends now have become a little bit more realistic, and I can go to bed at night knowing that I put in a solid days of work where I didn't sacrifice like my rest and my focus.
right.
Because it's taking a lot of that. Oh man, some of that stuff was just, like the laborer, right? Machines got built eventually so that we didn't have to use pulleys and belts to drag a big concrete block, across a land to stack on top of a pyramid.
Whipping donkeys along
Yeah,
the
or
way, right?
donkeys, or and then
Yeah.
just be days, and it became days became hours, became hours became minutes. It's the same thing for some of us that do this, right? Creating content, formulating an opinion that's structured around fact and some objectivity, right? And some like things that matter when you write. I mean, I could come from the hip and always be shooting out my ideas, but it's going to be messy. Whereas I can take now my ideas, I can refine it, I can make an outline, then I can go and like beat it up and beat it up and beat it up and like, what's a fact? Give me some stats, give me this
Right,
in real
right.
time, and get to a place where, like last night, I'm restructuring my website. I'm adding blogs in. I'm rewriting, like I'm updating some, and then there's some I'm moving over because I have a diversity of content. Well, that would take a long time previously, whereas like I was able to do a considerable amount of work in a short amount of time last night.
Yeah.
Feel good, to go like, all right, I can go to bed
And as
now.
long as the consumer gets the same benefit out of it, what is not good about that equation, right? It benefits the consumer, it
Yeah,
benefits the middleman, it benefits you as the producer, it benefits everyone. Efficiency is a good thing, and people are scared of it right now. I know, because they don't want to lose their jobs, but it's like, don't let this fear of losing your job make you an enemy of efficiency. Like this is why you got to find that objective middle ground. It's so important.
yeah. I want to end this on a thought I had about when AI and tech, when they reach out like certain level of impact, it's a signal to look ahead and ask what's next. It's just not about making things faster and more powerful, but it's finding new ways to improve people's lives. They'll tackle the big challenges, keep pushing boundaries. Reaching today's limits just means that we're taking on bigger goals tomorrow, and that's really like my mantra every day. Getting it to a place where tomorrow I'm going to just tackle it more and compound upon it, and not do the same thing over and over again. But that's just me. So that's where I want to leave this.
No, I think that's a nice message. Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. All right.
Well, I want to thank all our listeners. We are a new podcast called Curt and John Talk Tech and AI. We are a weekly podcast. Every now and again, we do a bonus episode. This is one of them. And if you want to join our live discussion, our capture session is on X, formerly Twitter, at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, every Thursday. Okay, and sometimes we reschedule that because life gets in the way. We both have kids and careers and mortgages and all that great stuff. So sometimes we shift it around a little. But the point is, we do a weekly drop, and we try to get beyond the hype and hyperbole and the doomers and the haters and the utopian fanboys, and we try to get down to objective reality. I'm not saying we succeed, but that's what we try to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to hop along and join us, we appreciate that, and we'll try to get beyond the confusion and the ignorance, because I that doesn't help anything. Yeah, it's and there's a lot of it right now when it comes to AI, especially AI in business.
Couldn't agree more. All right, man.
All right.
Get ready for next week.
Well, thanks for coming by, John. I appreciate it. I know you've been busy lately, and we'll get these online, and I will talk to you next week, sir.
Sounds great, man. Thank you. Have a great one.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye bye.